Today we're talking about one of Cobra's fine feathered friends, a fearsome and yet ridiculous member of the Cobra flock. Today is all about Raptor. Let's talk about him. Much of Raptor's life before his time with the Cobra organization is enshrouded in mystery. What we do know is that Raptor was at one time a yuppie tax consultant who would wheel and deal in the financial jungle of Wall Street. He made a ton of money in these ventures and sought increasingly expensive and exotic pastimes and ways to spend the money that was flowing in. That's how he found falconry. He was quickly wrapped up in the world of birds of prey and rather quickly became obsessed with avian blood sport. Raptor started his own aviary and ended up owning falcons, hawks, and eagles, and then developed his own breeding program to make bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, and more lethal birds. He also found out that if he equipped these birds with steel-tipped talons, that they could attack much more valuable prey, and this was his first foray into the illegal poaching trade. He had his flock attack grouse and rabbits for fur, and he would have them steal eggs of endangered birds and endangered species to sell for a huge profit on the black market. He found that using wildlife for these illicit ventures drew the attention of law enforcement significantly less, since he wasn't using traps and leaving behind human evidence of his crimes. So, though it netted him a bit less money, it was much safer and he could continue his crimes. One time, though, he set his birds loose on a mink farm, and this mink farm happened to be owned by Cobra. And in this bird invasion, he was caught by none other than Destro. And instead of killing him, Destro, the weapons manufacturer, realized the potential that Raptor's birds had for Cobra, so instead of killing this poacher, Destro took him into the ranks of Cobra, and it's then that he took on the name Raptor for himself, with working names including things like Peregrine and Scree, as in the screeching sound that birds of prey makes, but he settled on Raptor for himself. According to the dictionary, a raptor is a, quote, plundering bird of prey, a robber, a ravisher, an abductor. It plays into his financial background as well, plundering clients' accounts to line his own feathered pockets. So Raptor then began working closely with Dr. Mindbender on genetics and behavioral experiments to make an army of birds that could do a variety of tasks for Cobra. They used hawks and falcons as attack birds and took Raptor's steel-tip revelations one step further. Raptor and Dr. Mindbender dipped the steel tips of the birds in a nerve toxin derived from blowfish and arrow frogs. They also trained eagles to guard and patrol the grounds of some of Cobra's more remote installations. Raptor himself wears a domino-style mask under his hat, sort of like what Batman's Robin wears. Hey, another bird person. Raptor's adorned in symbols and icons of his feathered brethren. However, it's said that even though Raptor dresses like the birds he's obsessed with, that his sanity is not in question. That he remains financially astute and is rather savvy within the scope of the operations he oversees, and thus he's been a part of Cobra's high command and Cobra Commander's inner circle for a brief amount of time. Raptor first appeared in comic book form with Marvel Comics and Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero comic book series with issue 59. Raptor appeared right on the cover, fighting alongside Cobra Commander, who was in a pogo. They were both fighting against the likes of Outback and Tunnel Rat and their SLAM strategic long-range artillery machine. In the issue, Raptor was working with Fred 7 in Fred's secret back room of his garage in Denver, Colorado. They just built Cobra Commander a new battle suit and given the commander's son Billy Kessler a new prosthetic leg. When Cobra Commander met Raptor for the first time, he was less than impressed, and asked Fred why he was dressed up like a bird and if he was a nutcase. Cobra Commander then turned his ire on Raptor and said, "This bird brain is crazier than Dr. Mindbender. I'm sick and tired of wackos in funny suits. What are you sleeping on, Nest?" Raptor then told him that he only wears the bird suit to make the falcons more comfortable, to make them think that he's a part of the flock. To prove his worth to Cobra Commander, Raptor used some forensic accounting skills to hack into the U.S. Army financial and banking records housed at Fort Leonard Wood to track the Joes. Raptor picked up on Tunnel Rat's pay records, and then they figured out that the Joes were en route from Jerkwater Flats, Utah to Fort Carson, Colorado. So Cobra Commander jumped in a pickup truck with Fred and their pogo in the truck bed, while Raptor followed behind the truck in his personal car full of birds and likely upholstery covered in bird poop. The route was blocked by a rock slide, so they turned off the road and parked. Raptor used a model of the Joes' APC and set his birds loose to track the Joes and their APC in the mountains. Raptor was able to have red, yellow, and blue thong groupings fly certain routes to cover all possible routes through the mountains. Cobra Commander and Fred noted it was very systematic and very accountant-like. The birds found the APC, ripped the canvas apart, and brought shreds of the canvas covering back to Raptor, and they used this intel to intercept and attack the G.I. Joe column. And though Cobra Commander's pogo and the attack itself failed, Raptor managed to prove his worth, and they all headed back to the garage in Denver. Later, when they were back at the garage, Billy Kessler began remembering how he was fighting against his father before the accident. Raptor told him that that's no way to talk to Cobra Commander, so Billy told him he could go lay an egg. And as Billy tried to fight back to escape, Raptor pulled out his bird calling device. Billy attacked Raptor, kicking the device from Raptor's hands. Raptor had wanted to call his birds to rip the boy apart, but that failed. Raptor said he was just joking and to not kick him in the face, but Billy said he wouldn't do that there was bad karma for striking someone so pathetic, and so Billy ended up leaving. Cobra Commander also said he was quitting, that Cobra was done, but Raptor said if that happened, everything would go down the tubes, and without Cobra to cover for him, Raptor would be indicted and go to jail for tax fraud. Cobra Commander said that he would write letters of recommendation for both Raptor and Fred to Serpentor, but he was done. As Cobra Commander turned to walk away with Raptor by his side, Fred picked up a pistol and shot Cobra Commander in the back. Fred then picked up the helmet to become the new Cobra Commander, the supposedly dead original laying at their feet. A betrayal that would come back to bite them in the most serious of ways. It just so happens that Fred's garage was separated by a single alley from Blindmaster's dojo, which is where Billy had gone to train more with Jinx. And as Billy and Jinx left the dojo in a Ford GT40, Raptor, without his cape and cowl on, spotted him, the only one who'd be able to incriminate them for Cobra Commander's murder. So Raptor, in his own BMW, tailed Billy and Jinx in their GT40. Billy spotted Raptor quickly, and their counter-surveillance tactics made it hard for Raptor to keep up with the fast Ford. Instead, Raptor pulled the Bimmer over and let his birds out to track Billy and Jinx from the air. Raptor was able to track them both to the Defense Language Center at the Presidio in San Francisco, and he spied on them from the hills above the Presidio with his magic color-changing car. After waiting a while, Raptor then went to downtown San Francisco to use a payphone to call Fred while people looked on and stared at this strangely dressed stranger. Fred didn't answer the phone at the garage because he'd already taken off for Galveston, Texas. He was heading back to Cobra Island to meet Serpentor and reintroduce himself as Cobra Commander. And that meant that Raptor was now on his own for a time. The Fred version of Cobra Commander, though, did bring Raptor back in for a special mission in Special Missions 24. The Joes were on Presidential Protective Detail and monitoring Flushing Stadium for a Dandies Mites baseball game. Cobra wanted to use this game to snatch POTUS, the President of the United States. Raptor unleashed its birds, which dropped micro gas pellets in the stadium, and as the gas deployed, Firefly and Zarana attacked the stadium with explosive hot dogs, and Crystal Ball hit the Joes outside the stadium with his hypnotism. Cobra took POTUS onto their blimp, but the Joes fought back, and Raptor ended up fighting with Lady J on board the blimp. LJ fell out a window and ended up fighting off one of Raptor's birds from outside of the blimp as she hung on for dear life, swinging her knife at the bird until the bird ended up blowing up right in front of her. G.I. Joe did end up getting the president back safely, but Cobra escaped. Having fled that scene, Raptor went back to San Francisco to continue tracking Billy, again, the one person who could incriminate him for the death of Cobra Commander. And he found Billy and attempted to stop him by striking him with his BMW and knocking Billy off of his new moped. As Billy held Raptor's face against the hood of the car for a killing blow, Raptor said, wait, he knew where the real Cobra Commander, Billy's father, was buried, and that he knew who killed him. Raptor then took Billy to the front range of the Rockies outside of Denver to dig up Billy's father's body, but then the GT40 showed up with Tyrone and Blindmaster ended up striking Raptor down, berating him for desecrating Billy's father's resting place. Blindmaster talked to Billy about revenge, but Billy said that the object of his revenge was the present Cobra Commander, and with that, a devious grin appeared on Raptor's face. They all snuck onto Cobra Island to spy on the imposter Cobra Commander with help from Captain Min. Cobra Commander was hosting some vile villains on the landlocked freighter there on the island. That's where Raptor revealed to Billy that this guy was Fred 7, the same Fred 7 whom he'd met back in Denver after he awoke from his coma. Raptor snuck onto the freighter and watched while Fred, Dr. Mindbender, and Zartan confronted each other in a side room. Raptor offered to help them take down Fred, and then he would give up the original Cobra Commander's body for genetic material so Dr. Mindbender could resurrect the original. Raptor and Dr. Mindbender took a transport helo full of Cobra troopers to the Rockies to dig up the body, but the body was gone, and as they looked on, shocked, the real original Cobra Commander showed up alive. And when he showed up, he was flanked by an elite group of CGs. Raptor was incredulous, saying he saw Cobra Commander die and that he'd helped bury the body. It turns out that he was just in a catatonic state when he was shot, not truly dead, and ended up being rescued by Fred 8. And a call on the secret Fred hotline to a physician allowed the bullet to be removed from Cobra Commander's body and for him to recover quickly. They all went back to Cobra Island, and the original Cobra Commander found the imposter, Fred 7, along with Voltar, Crocmaster, Billy, Zartan, Tyrone, Captain Min, and Firefly, on the freighter arguing about the imposter. So Cobra Commander shoved Dr. Mindbender and Raptor into the freighter hold with them and locked the door on them. He then blew a channel around the landlocked freighter which sent it inside the volcano and then blew up the volcano itself, collapsing it right down on top of them. Raptor and all the traitors were buried alive and left to die. They tried to come up with an escape plan from inside there, but things quickly devolved into savagery as they all turned on each other, and some died really quickly. A year later, a patrol on Cobra Island found a tunnel near the buried freighter, so they called in some techno and toxo vipers to inspect the freighter, which was now a tomb. There they found bodies and rotting corpses of everyone except Zartane and Billy. Raptor, Dr. Mindbender, and Voltar had somehow survived longer than the others, who'd all gotten botulism from the spoiled sea rations that were stored on the freighter and they were forced to eat. Though these three eventually gave in and ate the spoiled food, but because of this delay, Raptor's body was still identifiable by the Vipers. In issue 251, a fan wrote in asking if there was ever a chance that Raptor would come back, and Larry wrote that he'd been mulling ways to bring Raptor, Crystal Ball, and Big Boa back into continuity. But a couple issues later, Larry clarified that this was an oversight on his part, that he should have consulted his quote-unquote dead list, where he wrote confirmed food poisoning botulism in the sunken freighter. So nope, Raptor's dead and will remain dead. There's also a story where Raptor went to space. In 1987's Live the Adventure, Operation Space Offer, Raptor and Cobra had infiltrated the World Space Agency and had hijacked the Orion 1 space station and taken it over. The Joes had to assemble a team and take the USS Defiant up to retake the station from the likes of Cobra Commander, Crocmaster, Raptor, Crystal Ball, Big Boa, and their Viper and Trooper soldiers. One requirement for the Joes was selecting an operator that could take on a 20-foot mutant crocodile and a 100-pound falcon along with their masters. That same year, 1987, Raptor made the cover of the spring issue of G.I. Joe magazine. In that issue's story, Raptor was working with Crocmaster to blow up the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Instead of a BMW, Raptor was driving a white Mercedes-Benz now, and when he got held up in traffic on top of the bridge, Raptor jumped out of the Mercedes, adorned in feathers and his falcon mask, and leapt over the side of the bridge. G.I. Joe's crazy legs and wetsuit immediately went after Raptor, but Raptor evaded the two Joes and floated to a waiting jet-powered boat, which Raptor took out into the bay and disappeared. That white Mercedes, which was still parked on the bridge, was the bomb, so the Joes worked to defuse that instead of continuing their pursuit of Raptor. In the IDW continuity that crossed G.I. Joe the Transformers, Raptor was a former scientist named Dr. Jacob Mitchell who went insane after being trapped underwater for too long. As a scientist, this version of Raptor had been working on military applications of avian sensory abilities, things like advanced hearing, sight, smell, ESP, biochemical detection, and echolocation. This R&D would be applied to future battle android trooper models, and through these efforts he ended up working with the Baroness, Crocmaster, Crystal Ball, and even Nemesis Enforcer at various times. As far as cartoon and TV series, Raptor was only animated for commercials. And created by Ron Rudat and Mark Pennington, Raptor got his first figure in 1987. It was Ron Rudat who designed the figure and Mark who created the accessories and sculpt sheets. This was a transition period from 86 to 87 where Mark became the lead designer, which is why they both had their hands on this one. Big Boa, Chuckles, Crocmaster, Crazy Legs, The Fridge, Cobra Law, 1987 onwards was a wild time for G.I. Joe. Let's not forget the other bird guy that came out, Lieutenant Falcon. Larry Hama then had to do his best to work the design into his story and, in his words, make stuff up to explain whatever silly attributes were built into the design. Larry said on more than one occasion that if he felt a character was too silly, he tried to kill them off at his first opportunity, hence what happened with the landlocked freighter. Incidentally, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got a character named Raptor this same year for the TV series, one of Titania's Havoc mutants. In 2016, Raptor was announced as part of that year's figure subscription service releases, alongside another bird-themed character that was Steel Raven, a female Scar infantry officer from G.I. Joe Extreme that was part of Ironclaw's faction. To sum up Raptor, we turn to his original file card, which says Raptor doesn't have any delusions about what he is, even if he dresses up in that bird suit of his and spends most of his time in a giant birdcage. Those are a means to an end, and the bottom line for Raptor is his non-taxable profit margin. And with that, that's a wrap on this, my friends. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.